Elias's door was firmly shut, yet an envelope slid silently underneath, as if it had been delivered by unseen hands. He froze, heart hammering, fingers trembling as he picked it up. On the paper, in jagged, almost deliberate handwriting, were the words, "Come alone. Sit in the room, or someone you love will die." Fear clawed at his chest, but thoughts of his sister and friends overpowered it. He knew he could not ignore the warning. Someone had to survive. With a deep, shuddering breath, he gripped the doorknob and stepped into the darkness, knowing the nightmare had already begun. The room was empty, yet Elias's heartbeat pounded so loudly he could almost hear it in his skull. In the center sat a single chair, polished to a cold gleam, and atop it lay a note, "Sit, or someone you love will die." He glanced at the door. It hadn't been locked before, yet now it refused to budge. Outside, life carried on, indifferent. Inside, time had stopped entirely, and he had only 3 minutes to choose. Sit, or let the nightmare claim someone he loved. He pushed the door with all his strength. It didn't budge. A cold draft slid down his neck, though no window was open. Then a voice, soft and almost gentle, drifted from above. "You may leave whenever you feel ready." Calm, polite, yet the weight behind it pressed against his chest like iron, crushing any spark of hope. Every instinct screamed to run, yet his legs refused to move. His first physical trial came suddenly. A small weight, perfectly balanced, rolled across the floor. If he stepped on it wrong, the sharp snap of bone echoed somewhere, and he realized someone was already in pain because of him. Minutes stretched like hours as the first psychological trap tightened around him. The voice returned, calm and soothing. "Stretch your legs, or you may stretch your patience." Elias obeyed, walking slowly across the room. Every step seemed to echo in a cavernous emptiness. Shadows shifted unnaturally. A chair scraped softly behind him, though he had not touched it. His mind screamed that the room itself was alive, testing him. Small cuts appeared on his hands, shallow but burning, as if invisible nails had drawn patterns across his skin. His physical torment had begun. By the 4th hour, exhaustion made every movement feel like climbing a mountain. He was forced to stand, then sit, then kneel, over and over, each repetition measured and deliberate. When he hesitated, the voice's calm tone pierced his skull. "Decide quickly. Someone you love waits." Elias imagined his sister screaming, her voice cracking as invisible hands tore her across the cold floor. He felt every panicked scrape of her nails against wood, each cry slicing into his chest like a blade. And worst of all, he imagined her calling his name, pleading, terrified, while he remained frozen, paralyzed by helpless horror. His friend's final breath, ragged and wet, bubbling through blood that filled his throat. Elias could almost feel that fading warmth slipping from his body, leaving behind only a cold, lifeless weight in his arms. And in that imagined silence, the last exhale sounded less like air and more like a quiet surrender to death. Even his cat struggled somewhere. He pictured its tiny body thrashing in suffocating darkness, claws raking against unseen walls. Its terrified cries echoed in his mind, fading weaker with each heartbeat, until silence swallowed them. Helplessness coiled around his chest, squeezing him as if his own heart were being strangled along with it. A table appeared at the center, holding a small metal box. Inside, his first true choice: open it or leave it closed. The voice whispered, "Your choice will matter." Elias's hands trembled as he lifted the lid, revealing a series of tiny needles, each labeled with a name he recognized. The physical threat was real. Prick a wrong needle, and someone would suffer. The psychological cruelty was absolute. He knew he could not refuse without consequences, and even compliance might not save them. Sweat poured down his face as he realized the tormentor was not punishing his body yet. He was bending his soul first. Hours blurred into a living nightmare. He had to crawl across jagged shards of glass, bare hands slicing, blood welling from every contact just to reach a note outlining the next trial. His knees were raw, torn to ribbons, staining the floor in dark, glistening streaks. The voice whispered, calm and unyielding, "Do it again. Faster." Each repetition felt like his skin was being shredded anew, yet refusal was unthinkable. There was no room for failure. Completing it brought only a whisper of approval, yet the crushing weight of survival pressed heavier than death itself. Every nerve screamed in agony. Every muscle quivered, but it was the mind that burned the most. He had become a puppet of fear, each twitch and breath dictated by unseen hands, bending his soul in ways pain alone could not touch. The final physical trial revealed itself, a padded chamber, its walls lined with gleaming hooks, straps dangling ominously from above. The voice instructed him to position himself with precision. Each movement weighted with the threat of brutal consequences. Pain was inevitable, not from anger, but from unforgiving perfection. One misstep, and the straps would lash across his limbs, tearing flesh and bending bones. A single misangle, a fraction of hesitation, and the cords would strike, leaving his arms and legs mangled, bones cracking under their merciless pull. Sweat mixed with blood as he forced each trembling movement, muscles quivering like fragile wires. Every breath was a silent prayer, every heartbeat a gamble between survival and excruciating agony. Blindfolded, Elias was guided into a freezing chamber where the air sliced at his skin like knives. He was forced to stand atop a narrow ledge, every muscle straining above a pit shrouded in darkness. From below came muffled, agonized cries, haunting reminders that a single slip would not only claim him, but someone else too. Fear coiled tight around his chest, every nerve alert, every breath a dagger of anticipation. His body swayed, toes numb, every muscle trembling under the strain. The voice whispered softly, "Hold still, Elias. You've done well so far." That calmness was more terrifying than a scream, a cruel reminder that no matter how perfect his movements, failure lurked in every shadow. He realized with chilling clarity, survival here was never his to claim. It was only a fleeting reprieve. After an eternity that felt like endless torment, he collapsed into the original chair. His limbs trembled, useless from strain, blood, and sweat mingling into a cold, sticky film. The voice murmured, "Compliance achieved." Relief should have followed, but his mind was splintered, each thought a jagged shard of fear and exhaustion. He realized the torture had reached beyond flesh. It had claimed his sense of safety, of certainty, of self. Agony had burrowed deeper than bruises or cuts. It had poisoned his memory, twisted his trust, and shattered his sense of who he was. Every shadow, every sound, every heartbeat made him question reality. He could not tell if the voice would return, if the chair was safe, or if anyone he loved had truly survived. The torment was no longer a trial. It had become his existence. When the door finally gave way, Elias tumbled into the night, the air foreign and thin, the city indifferent to the horrors that had unfolded behind him. He should have felt relief, but each step only deepened the dread. Shadows lengthened, wind whispered across the streets, and he realized the game was far from over. He had only survived its first act. Weeks later, an envelope appeared beneath his door, impossibly silent. Inside was a photograph, the same polished chair gleaming under an unseen light. Beneath it, a single word scrawled in stark black ink: "Sit." Elias's stomach tightened as the memory of every scream, every choice, every twitch of agony flooded back. He knew the nightmare had never ended. Elias sank to the floor, trembling. Every scream, every agonized choice, every flicker of fear played relentlessly in his mind. He understood now with bone-deep certainty. The tormentor had never left. The game was eternal, etched into his body, his mind, and his soul. He would never trust a door, a shadow, or even his own instincts again. The chair waited. The voice lingered, and the note's silent command echoed without end. The final image lingers on an empty room, the chair perfectly centered, polished to a cold gleam. The light flickers, shadows shift, and the silence is deafening. The audience is left with a question. When the choice is forced upon you and every option inflicts suffering, how far would you go to survive? The nightmare doesn't end here. Subscribe, share, and like to survive the next horrifying story.